that the youth unemployment rate in South Africa is 64%. 64% of Black South Africa's youth are unemployed. Absolutely unacceptable. I looked at the poverty rate in South Africa. 56% of our South African brothers and sisters are impoverished, and 56 million are living beneath the poverty line. Brothers and sisters, that's not democracy. There's nothing worse than to urinate on my head and call it rain. There's nothing worse to invite me to dinner and put no food on my plate. Don't tell me I'm equal because the Constitution says so. Don't tell me I'm equal because I got the right to vote. Don't tell me I'm equal because I have the right to sing and dance and wave the South African flag. I am equal when I enjoy as much opportunity to be a South African as does everyone else. Crime is a big issue in South Africa, just as it is in America, just as it is in the Black communities of England, just as it is in the Black communities of Canada, just as it is in the Black communities of Australia and Brazil. But there's nothing more hypocritical than to hear politicians talk about reducing crime without reducing poverty. Brothers and sisters, poverty is the soil from which crime grows. Anyone who is serious about reducing crime in South Africa but doesn't talk about reducing poverty is not serious about eliminating crime. And how do we address poverty in South Africa? Number one, the school system. I am of the position that the miseducation of Black children is the mother of crime. Until we fix the schools, until we make sure our children can read and count and comprehend, until we make sure the schools have the infrastructure that they need, the teachers that they need, a South African-centered curriculum that they need. Don't talk about eliminating crime. Fix the schools. And then after we fix the schools, we have to deal with the unemployment rate. We have to deal with the homelessness rate. We have to deal with the youth unemployment rate. Why are there no jobs for our young people in South Africa? I mean, after all, South Africa is one of the leading producers of gold. South Africa is one of the leading producers of platinum. South Africa is one of the leading producers of iron, one of the leading producers of diamonds. How can a country so wealthy not be able to provide jobs for its children? Yes. I'll tell you why. Because the only thing that happened on April the 27th of 1994 was they switched out white gatekeepers with Black gatekeepers. The system of apartheid that existed on April the 26th is the same system of apartheid that exists on July 13, 2025. Nobody changed the system. They only changed the people sitting in the seats. In South Africa, you cannot make this mistake. Your American African brothers and sisters have continuously made this mistake. We thought of Barack Obama meant change. I knew it did not mean change, because you don't change the system by changing the personality. You change the system by changing the nature and structure of that system. In South Africa right now, 71% of the private land in this country is still owned by Caucasians. 71% of the land, although Caucasians are less than 7% of South Africa's population. Help me understand how 7% of people can own 71% of the land. And not only do they own 71% of the land, white South Africa accounts for 65% of managerial positions in your society. Apartheid is still here. Apartheid never changed. And why does South Africa, as Bishop Mapango said, why does South Africa belong to everybody who lives in it? Israel don't belong to everybody who lives in it. Donald Trump is making it clear that America doesn't belong to everyone who lives in it. So why does South Africa have to belong to everyone who lives in it? I've never heard of someone breaking into a person's house, and because they're on the inside of the house, they have a right to stay. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of somebody stealing somebody's resources, and because you held the land you stole for a certain amount of time, it's automatically yours now. Where do you see that at? I was watching television a few weeks ago, and I saw President Donald Trump sitting down with President Ramaphosa, and he spoke about false land appropriation crimes that black South Africans allegedly had committed against the whites. And I'll be honest with you, South African brothers and sisters, I was a little disappointed in President Ramaphosa. And I was disappointed because he neglected to take a very good opportunity to clarify to President Donald Trump why the appropriation was in fact taking place if it was, and the history of how white people came to control that land in the first place. Brothers and sisters, you need to understand something. When you're talking to white people about black problems that they started, they never like to do a history on the problem. If you notice in South Africa, when you talk about poverty, in South Africa, when you talk about crime, in South Africa, when you talk about homelessness, in South Africa, when you talk about unemployment, they never like to tie it to apartheid. They never like to tie it to the structural injustices in your society. They tell black South Africa, just like they tell black America, just like they tell black Brazil, black Canada, black England, why you keep bringing up the past? Get over the past. But I never hear them telling Jews in Israel to get over the past. The reason white folks in South Africa don't want to talk about the past is because the further you go back in history, the more obvious it becomes who is responsible for your problems. Brothers and sisters, never allow somebody to cut you off from the history of your reality. You should never begin a conversation without the history of your reality. I'm a psychologist. When a client walks into my office, the first thing I do is conduct a history on their depression, a history on their anxiety disorders, a history on their eating disorders, a history on their borderline, a history on their bipolar, a history on their problems. When you go see the doctor, the first thing a doctor does is conduct a history on your problem. When you go get your automobile repaired, the first thing the automobile mechanic does is ask you to give a history of the problem on the car. So why is it okay to give a history on every other problem in the world except black oppression? When it comes to black oppression, we're supposed to forget about the past and only live in the present. South Africa, the greatest thing that could have happened on April 27th, 1994 was for there to be a complete and total redistribution of the resources in South Africa. The only way you give black South Africa a fair opportunity in this country is to redistribute the resources. But on April 27th, 1994, no resources were distributed. They simply gave you a flag, a vote, and an anthem and said you are now equal. Listen, if I'm living in South Africa and someone comes to me asking for my vote in the next election, I would have 3 questions for that particular candidate. I don't care what party they represent, my questions would be the same. Question number 1, how are you going to use the resources of South Africa to help indigenous black South Africans? And let me say this, and I don't want to offend anybody, but in my opinion, as was the opinion of most of the forefathers of this movement we call Pan-Africanism, anyone in Africa who is not a black African is not an African. You are an invader, you are an opportunist, or you are a descendant of an invader and an opportunist. I mean no disrespect, but there's no such thing as a Caucasian South African. I mean, no disrespect, there's no such thing as a Chinese and South African. I can't go to China and be Chinese. So why can the Chinese come to South Africa and be South African? I can't go to Israel and be a Jew. So why can the Israeli come to South Africa and be a South African? We have to stop making it so easy for people to infiltrate our culture, infiltrate our society, and claim to be one of us. They're not doing it out of genuine sincerity. They're doing it to exploit you. Don't let people play in front of your face. Brothers and sisters, we have an alcoholism problem in South Africa. A big alcoholism problem in South Africa. And I believe that alcoholism problem goes back to apartheid. I believe that nothing was done to stop the flow of alcohol into the townships today, like it wasn't anything done to stop the flow of alcohol in the townships prior to 1994. They want you to get drunk. They want you to drink malt liquor. And in case you don't know, brothers and sisters, malt liquor is the most toxic form of alcohol that you can consume. In fact, if you do your history on malt liquor, you will find out that malt liquor was never intended to be consumed by the human body. Malt liquor is the junk that is left over after they make high quality alcohol. And because they had no use for malt liquor, they decided to bottle it up and sell it to blacks in South Africa, blacks in America, black in Europe. Malt liquor is genocide, brothers and sisters, and you must stop drinking it. The second leading cause of death for black South Africans 15 to 29. The second leading cause of death for black South Africans 15 to 29 is suicide. Did you know that? Our teenagers and young adults are taking their own life. It's because of the stress of being black in South Africa, the lack of opportunity. I hear people say all the time, we have to teach our children where they come from. And that's true. We do have to teach our children their great history. South Africa has a phenomenal history. But there's nothing more frustrating than to a child to be told you're great and be given no opportunity for greatness. We must not only teach them who they are, we must give them an opportunity to manifest the God-given greatness that is within them. Half of South Africa, almost half of South Africa is under the age of 30. That's good news, brothers and sisters. That's good news. You know why? If half of South Africa is under the age of 30, my question would then become, why are we not organizing them? Why are we not conscientizing them? Why are we not politicizing them? This should be a study group for the 12 to 17-year-olds. This should be a study group for the 18 to 24-year-olds. This should be a study group for the 25 to 30-year-olds. This should be a weekend school where they learn not only who they are, but where they get academic enrichment and where they are trained in basic skills that they can use for entrepreneurship. If I was speaking with the government, one of the first questions I would have for the government, why isn't every child in South Africa afforded the opportunity to learn a trade skill? Every child in South Africa should be learning how to be a plumber or an architect, electrician, a roofer, a welder, a mechanic. Why are they not being taught these skills? I'll tell you why. It's the same reason why schools in South Africa are engineered to fail, the schools that serve our children. It's the same thing in the United States of America. The reason the schools don't work, the reason your children are not being given livable wage skill training is to make sure that white youth always control and dominate South African society. I need you to understand something. Schools in black communities within white societies must fail in order for white children to be guaranteed white privilege. Which is why we need to be building our own schools, brothers and sisters. I know we're not rich in South Africa. I know we're not rich throughout the continent of Africa. We're not rich in a lot of places. But I think you would have to agree with me when I say that we could still be doing a whole lot more for ourselves than we are right now. Brothers and sisters, we're spending too much money on partying. Brothers and sisters, we're spending too much money on clothes and hair. Brothers and sisters, we're spending too much money on white restaurants and vacations. We have to start weaponizing the South African rand. Weaponize that brand so we can train our children. Weaponize that brand so we can build schools and programs and quality after-school events for our children. If we lose the children, we lose the future. They are out here disorganized, running amok without anything to do because we are failing them. It is not the government's job to save the children. It is our job to save the children and put pressure on the government to provide us with the resources that we need. Steve Biko said, the greatest weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. With that being said, we as African people have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves a very serious question. It's a question that we don't like to talk about. Brothers and sisters, that question is real simple. Are we a psychologically defeated people? And if we are not a psychologically defeated people, why does it appear to be so? Why don't we fight the way we used to fight? Why don't we organize the way we used to organize? Why don't we build the way that we used to build? Why don't we look out for each other the way we used to look out for each other? In South Africa, we got more problems coming down the pipe. There is a global effort by the white power structure to eliminate land holdings for African people throughout the world. They want you to own no land at all in South Africa. In the Caribbean, they're taking land away from Africans. In Europe, they're taking land away from Africans. In the United States of America, they're taking land away from Africans. And if we don't do something in South Africa about the land that Chinese are now owning and controlling, the land that the East Indians in South Africa are now owning and controlling. When I'm in Durban, I have to remind myself I'm in South Africa because I swear I'm in India. Brothers and sisters, we have to take the land. In addition to that, anybody running for office will have to explain to me how they're going to invest in indigenous black businesses in South Africa. How are you going to help South African black men and women build their own entrepreneurial dream? Because if the government of South Africa does not invest in black South Africa will be owned by aliens. It's just a matter of time before the entire country is owned by aliens if the government doesn't invest in us building our own businesses. And what are you going to do to stop the aliens from coming in and absorbing so much of the infrastructure in the land? See, when the Indian shows up in South Africa, they show up with a line of credit from a bank in India. When the Jews show up in South Africa, they show up with a line of credit from a bank in Israel. When the Chinese show up in South Africa, they show up with a line of credit from China. They get financed from their national homeland. And they come here and they take over industries that should be ran by black people, but our government is not investing in us the way these other people's governments are investing in them to come into our country and take it from us. Brothers and sisters, God did not put us on this earth to serve white people. And we have an obligation to supreme consciousness to overthrow the oppression that is upon us. We've had one great African independence movement. Unfortunately, South Africa, you will have to have a second. After all the dying that took place in this country to make South Africa free, you're going to have to do it all over again. Because in the aftermath of the so-called end of apartheid, those who we put in place gave back through concession and agreement that which your ancestors fought and died to receive. One of the reasons Chris Hani was assassinated is because Chris Hani wanted to continue fighting. Chris Hani said the war isn't over until the fighting is done with. And because he was so popular in your country, there was fear from the white power structure that the ANC Youth League and others would demand a replacement from Nelson Mandela to Chris Hani on that presidential ballot. And so Chris Hani had to go in order for the white power structure to maintain control of this country. I'm not going to throw Nelson Mandela under the bus. I divide Nelson Mandela's career into two parts. The Nelson Mandela who went into prison and the one who came out. I honor the Nelson Mandela that went into prison. He will forever be a hero of mine. The Nelson Mandela who came out of prison was compromised. And I'm not condemning or criticizing him, because after 27 years, I'm trying to understand South Africa. After 27 years, why in the hell did we expect him to come out fighting the same way he went inside? That was our mistake. See, African people suffer from a Jesus situation. We're always looking for this one savior to come and get us, Bishop Obama. We're always looking for the one savior. There will be no one man. Not Dr. UMAR, not Nelson Mandela, not Bishop Obama, not Julius Malema, not Cyril Ramaphosa. We must have a leadership team, a group that leads South Africa. Not one man, not one woman, but a team, brothers and sisters. A team. The next question I would ask, what are you going to do to make sure our children in the university level, thank you, are taught the skills that South Africa needs for them to be able to build? When our children graduate from the university in South Africa, a lot of them can't find jobs, but they still owe student loan money. So the banks are exploiting our children in the name of higher education, giving them worthless degrees that they can't find a job for, and still have to pay back the student loans. We don't want no more degrees. We want businesses. White people don't always have to go to college to start their business. Why do black children have to go to college to start their business? Why are they not being taught artificial intelligence? Why are they not being taught real estate in grade school? Why are they not being taught stock investing in grade school? Why are they not being given the trades? Brothers and sisters, a lot of work has to be done in South Africa. But in order to do it, we have to overcome our petty differences. We have to overcome the Zulu and the Xhosa thing. We have to overcome the light skin and the dark skin thing. We have to overcome my parents were educated and yours were not. We have to overcome I grew up in the suburbs, you grew up in the township. There is only one South Africa. And South Africa will rise together or we will fall together. And let me say this, South Africa. Your struggle to reclaim your land and your resources isn't just about the future of South Africa. It is about the destiny of the entire African continent. Look at Ibrahim Traoré and look at the size of Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is nowhere near the size of South Africa. But whenever they do something of significance, you can feel the heartbeat through the whole continent. So if you can feel the heartbeat of Burkina Faso throughout Africa, imagine what will be felt around the continent of Africa when South Africa finally stands, brothers and sisters. You are the superpower. You are the superpower. You are the sleeping giant. If South Africa can stand, any African country can stand. If South Africa can stand, West Africa will stand. East Africa will stand. Central Africa will stand. And the indigenous Africans of North Africa will stand. As I prepare to wrap this up, brothers and sisters, 3 things we need to do in the community. Number 1, we need a rites of passage for our children. Give them something worthwhile to do. Because as you know, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. We have to work with the children. There is no such thing as an activist, a nationalist, a Pan-Africanist who does not take care of the community's village. Number 2, we need our council of elders back. Every community in South Africa needs an indigenous council of elders to give law and order to our community, to settle disputes and conflicts in our community, to provide wisdom and guidance in our community. We are not Europeans. We don't throw away our parents when they get old. We continue to drink from the rich cup of wisdom that they have within them. And the third thing we need to do in South Africa, We have to pool our money. Brothers and sisters, I don't care if it's 1 rand a day. We have to put our money into a community vessel so we can build our own schools, our own hospitals, our own supermarkets, our own banks. If we can get all of Black South Africa to come together and put your money in the same holding institution, we can have a Black Bank of South Africa. And now when you want to buy a home, you can get it from your own money. When you need to send your child to the university, you can get it from your own money. You want to build a business, you can get it from your own money. Until there is psychological freedom, there will be no political freedom. Until there is psychological freedom, there will be no economic freedom. Until there is psychological freedom, there will be no spiritual freedom. Understand, South Africa, until we change the way we think as African people, we change nothing else. And let me say a word about the rest of the continent and I'll be done. The reason Africa is still struggling 75 years after independence is because of 2 institutions, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Yes. They're both based in Washington, D.C. And the United States government is the largest shareholder in them both. These economic parasites come into Africa, rob, steal, and force unfair deals onto African leadership. They give Africa loans and charge you excessive interest on that loan so that you can never pay it back. They are using the debt of Africa to recolonize Africa. It is the World Bank and the IMF that is keeping Africa handicapped. Because when African nations take loans from the World Bank and IMF, they dictate their economy. They tell you how to spend the money. They tell you who to spend the money with. And they tell you what to spend the money for. No African country will ever be free as long as they continue to take handouts from the white man. We don't need any handouts. South Africa don't need handouts. Namibia don't need handouts. Botswana don't need handouts. Lesotho don't need handouts. Mozambique, Angola, they don't need handouts. What they need is the white man to stop interfering in the internal politics and economics of Africa. That's all we need for the white man to do is leave us the hell alone. But they're not going to do that, brothers and sisters. The United States of America consumes 25% of the resources that come out of Africa. 25% of Africa's resources goes to one country, that's the United States of America. France has over what? 4 trillion pounds of gold, 4 billion pounds of gold, and France doesn't have a single gold mine. How? Because of robbery and theft. The debt that is owed by Africa to the European powers should be no debt at all. Cancel the damn debt. And this is why we need a United States of Africa. Because no African country can fight the global power structure alone. We have to regionalize. As long as Africa stays balkanized and divided, they can play divide and conquer, separate and rule. We need a union of Southern African states, a union of West African states, a union of East African states, a union of Central African states. And then, as was the dream of the Right Excellent Marcus Messiah Garvey and Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba, ultimately, we need a United States of Africa. I close with the words of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, who said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Marcus Garvey said the greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization. Garvey said, we don't suffer just because we're black. We suffer because we are black and disorganized. Garvey said, if the black man and woman are not careful, we will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and die from the effects of it. My parents of South Africa, please make sure your children are reading every night for 1 hour. I saw the skill levels for black children in South Africa. The reading is appalling. And do you know why the reading is appalling? It's not because South Africa's children are reading disabled. I'm a school psychologist and I can tell you 90% of the children I've evaluated these past 25 years are not reading disabled. They don't have learning disabilities. They have lazy disabilities. They're not focused, they're not interested, they're not motivated. Show me a lazy child, I'll show you a lazy parent. Make them do their homework, check the homework, buy them books, make them read it. Because there is nothing more important to the future success of an African child than to first know yourself and to second, know how to read. Black parents in South Africa, don't put your children in special education unless you are absolutely certain something is wrong with your child. The reading disability is a scam. The math disability is a scam. The comprehension disability is a scam. Our children need practice and better instruction. They don't need special education. Also, don't give your children Ritalin. Don't give your children Adderall. Don't give your children Concerta, Cycler, Metadate. These are the ADHD drugs. These are the conduct disorder drugs. These are the oppositional defiant disorder drugs that they're giving to black children right here in South Africa, like they do to black children in England and in America. Those drugs are no different than crack cocaine. You are destroying the minds of your children. They don't need drugs, they need love. And the last one, if you can help it, try not to vaccinate your child at all. And if you have to vaccinate your child, please keep them away from the measles, mumps, and rubella shot. MMR is the trigger for autism in black children. I'm gonna say it again. MMR is the trigger for autism in black children. 50 years ago, how many autistic children y'all had in South Africa? Almost none. Now look, I think I read that y'all had 1 out of every 50 South African children is autistic. I'll tell you why. It's the vaccinations. As long as you vaccinate your child, you put them at risk for autism. Stop vaccinating. Brothers and sisters, I'll leave you with this. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman said, in all my years of freeing slaves from the Underground Railroad, I freed hundreds. She said, whenever I went on the Freedom Trail, there would always be a couple scared slaves who didn't want to go with me. So I would cock my pistol up to their head. And whenever a scared slave wanted to go back to the slave master, I would say, dead niggas tell no tales. You go on or you die here. And she said, because of that, I never lost a passenger on the Underground Railroad, and I never ran my train off the track. She said, but I had just one regret. I freed hundreds of slaves. I could have freed thousands. The problem was, they didn't even know that they were slaves. South Africa, I love you. One love, Black Power.